Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Northern League Championship, brought to you by MasterCard, Telia, and El Giganten. What's going on? I've been put in charge of the circus, but luckily I've got my two favorite clowns with me, Gulborg and Jamada. Lads, how are we doing?
You're going to get it. Yeah, you're going to get it for the intro all day. I hope you know this.
I mean, yesterday was a bit of a circus, let's be real.
It wasn't. That was great. That was podcast time all the way. Like, it was very chill. It was amusing. I loved yesterday.
Yesterday was great fun. Honestly, even with our horrible pause at the end of yesterday in Trick versus Nordavind, it was still great fun. Anyway, before we get going on today and everything, let's have a little look over on what we got going on our social media channels. We have our Play of the Day rewards. You can win yourself Bear RP fam. That's a lot of skins. Head over to our social media channels. Who thought it was a good idea to let me host this show, man? Yeah, you can win yourself some skins of your choice because you get the RP, so it's up to you. Just head over to our social media channels, NLC LOL, and you can figure out how to get involved in that because I don't know. Any skins you guys like?
I mean, I honestly, every time that I see the reward system, I wish I could get involved. There's so much RP. I don't know what I would do with that much RP, to be totally honest with you. So, you know, you guys on us, get involved. Like it's good.
Please, and give skins. Like you can add us. Like if you give skin for sure. Like come on, just get that RP rolling and get some skins.
Yeah. I mean, I'd actually quite like Elderwood Zaya. That skin's sick. After watching like all our AD carries play it for the last few weeks, I'm like, that skin's kind of cool actually, with the butterfly wings as the feathers. Really nice stuff. Let's have a little look at our standings to see where we are right now in the Northern League Championship. Over in Group A, it is BTXL who are in first. Tricked have an extra game on them, who are in second at the moment. Then it is Granit, Nordavind, Godsend, and Dusty. And if we do move over to Group B, let's see what's going on over there. It is Fnatic Rising, Barrage, Team Singularity, Covert, Riddle, and M&M. Fnatic, honestly, after losing their first game of the season, they have been performing much better. But, you know, I think there's been a few weak points from them. I think that's fair to say.
And I think Group B in general has been a way more competitive group than we initially anticipated. Like Barrage and Singularity, we knew they had decent rosters, but we didn't know that they were going to be neck on neck at 5-2 and Fnatic literally just sitting at one win over them. So this group is certainly not set in stone yet, and everything is still up for grabs.
Yeah, and I also want to say Group A has potential to be super interesting as well, because I was crunching numbers late last night, and Nordavind and Tricked are both tied with, they played 7 games. They're not tied in stands, but they both played 7 games. But Nordavind have Godsend, Granite, and Dusty left to play, who are all teams who, given Nordavind's upswing, we might actually expect them to just clean sweep that, and that would put them, they'll put them at the 7-win mark. And Tricked, I believe, or 6 wins, and Tricked actually have Godsend, Granite, and of course they play BTXL tomorrow. So if Trick slip up, they're 1-1 in the head-to-head, so they could realistically actually tie second with Trick in this group.
There's still a lot to play for, and yesterday showed us some of these teams a little bit lower down actually are still winning with a shot, and honestly looking good as well. As we run the highlights, whipping out our time winder and looking at what happened yesterday. This was our first game of the day, Riddle versus M&M.
I don't know if it was an upset in its own right, but certainly most analysts predicted M&M here, I think. But it was an insane team composition coming out from Riddle, something where we were not used to seeing them run with a Varus, some actual AD damage in the mid lane. And Apples, you know, really showing up. Riddles looked way better yesterday than we usually see them.
Yeah, it was good to actually see Riddle step up, in particular Apples, because I think we've been pretty critical of him on the desk, because champion pool has definitely been something that's been abused multiple times. Here, this was the Kova Fnatic game, which honestly, Kova, I feel like if you are a Kova fan walking away from this game, you'd feel pretty sad, because this could have been a pretty big upset.
But also, it's a privilege to feel sad against Fnatic, right? Yeah. Like that's the thing, that we're in a universe where Kova almost beating Fnatic, like you're upset about that.
Yeah, I think you take, I agree, Coolbug. I think you take that. The SNG versus Barrage game, I think, for most people was going to be yesterday's highlight, and what a close game it ended up being. Tricked versus Nordavind, though. Honestly, kind of disappointed in Tricked. From my point of view.
It was a tough one, right? Like, but at the same time, impressed by Nordavind again. Like, they're on their upswing, as we said, but it seemed like Trick never really found their footing outside of that one beautiful fight from Polston. So yeah, still a lot of things left to be decided. Also in terms of when the teams are performing, because I feel like we don't have a team right now where I'm like, oh, you're consistently good. No, everyone has slip-ups, everyone has bad days, and everyone has good days now and then. So I feel like it's a lot about when do you hit those good days.
Yeah, I'm for some of these teams, I'm looking at who we got coming up today, and we can bring up our today's matches and see what we got coming up, because we got some pretty interesting games, and a lot of these are actually somewhat close. We starting the day off with Granit versus BTXL, then it is Godsend versus Dusty, Kova versus Riddle, and rounding the day out with Singularity versus Fnatic Rising. Now, I think if I were just to ask you, what game are you guys excited about? Singularity versus Fnatic Rising is probably going to be the one you're going to say. So any other games today that you're quite excited about, Jamada?
Yeah, I would actually want to look the game before, Kova and Riddle. I think it's probably the most pivotal match for that group. Potentially all split, because realistically, they're going to be fighting over that fourth and final playoff spot, right? So whoever wins that game tonight is, I'm not going to say, guaranteed that playoff spot, but it really ups the chances of securing it for them.
And for me, it gotta be Dusty Godsend for some of the same reasons. If Dusty beats Godsend today, then they're even in the standings. And that means that, all right, we don't have to worry about relegation as much, but if Dusty lose to Godsend today, they're 2 points down. And that's insane in terms of relegation is just around the corner. We got 1 week left after this one.
Yeah, well, those are the games to come. We still have our first game of the day, which is going to be Granit versus XL. And even though he's not on the desk, his ego is so out of control, he needed to do a video about our first game to get himself here. Orcs is going to break down this game about Granit a little bit more, but at least... And it's a double kill for Michigu. 42 minutes on the clock, and Granit take down.
For me, Granit was just this absolute wild card. A lot of people had really low expectations on them. Tier lists were saying they were right at the bottom. Even though they've been a little bit shaky in the past 2 weeks, their initial performance was really great to see.
But actually, Granit are the ones coming up big here. He's going for it.
A lot of teams didn't give them the respect they deserved, and they just flourished off that. They went in headstrong, decided they were going to play their own game, and they weren't going to let themselves sort of be towed into the line and think, okay, we're one of the bottom teams, we're against XL, we're expected to lose. They just believe that no matter who they play against, they bring their A game, and it really shows.
Orcs is right. A lot of teams did underestimate Granit.
Yeah.
I hate to admit that he's right, but he is. I want to know if XL will underestimate him, though.
No, go.
I mean, yeah, I think like rightfully so. It is a team with essentially 4 rookies coming in and top lane only one having like competitive split. So obviously a lot of people are not going to have any opinions on you because there's literally nothing to base your opinion on. So that just means everyone had it was easy for them to underestimate them. They didn't know what they were going up against, but that made it kind of easy for Granit. No pressure on them. No one believed in them, and they just keep sneaking these victories. But I say one thing, that I think they looked more consistent in the beginning of the split, riding that high of coming into it. But I've seen them make some more fundamental mistakes now. So going up against BTXL, it is possible. We've seen them running away with the early game, as we saw last time these two teams faced off. But it's that point when you get to the mid to late game where it becomes harder, and there's a more experienced roster on the side from BTXL. And I think that's going to be some of the worries from me from Granit Gaming today.
Yeah, and whilst we'll also touch on it a little more when we start talking about draft 2, I feel like teams have started to begin to crack the code in the Sahiro champion pool. Not that I think that Sahiro is necessarily tied down to just the Rise and the Victor, but it really does look like Granit as a whole look a little less comfortable when he's not on these 2 champions, whereas Sahiro still looks okay, which is kind of one of my early worries.
That's also so insane though, right? Because you have a team where you always know that Rise and Victor is going to be banned, and no one will ever ban those 2 champions on the first rotation unless you're against Granit. So that should open up the map with other power picks, but the problem is that is just not happening. I will say though one thing, like bot laner from Granit Gaming has showed promise. Like I think Michigu and Dr. Chaos, when they've been performing, has been really good in late game team fights, because that's suddenly when they come back. We saw it against the game with Nordavin, where Nordavin got all the early game objectives. They fight one window to get back in the game, but it's off these picks, and that's the kind of pick potential I want from Granit as well. That's why the control mages like the Rise, like the Victor is great, because it creates pressure from the mid lane that lets you open up these vision pockets that Granit played around with so well.
I mean, Dr. Chaos also has the best name in the league. Let's be real here. There's no denying that. Jamada, you thought about it. I saw you thinking about it. There is no denying it.
I deny it.
Before we get going into today's games, let's actually quickly bring up our predictions for the day and see where everybody is kind of placing their votes right now. Jamada, do you wanna talk me through your spicy little vote there?
Yeah, really simple. Anyone who was on Twitter this morning would have seen BTXL post a picture of beans in a mug, and honestly, I just couldn't stand for it. And I'm just gonna have to back my boys Granit, and apparently no one else would. So I'm happy. I'm happy to see, hopefully, what is going to be considered an upset if they do win today.
So I'm just having a look down everywhere else. Dusty vote from you and Orcs, Gulborg.
So yeah, that's basically just I mean, Dusty, I think they've been showing promise now. New coaching staff with Quickset as well, where I think that the draft are actually making a lot more sense for these players to play around with. Not that they weren't good before, but they were harder to play around. So it's the ease of execution I've seen come through. And then Godsend, to me, I mentioned it, like it's about some of these teams hitting their good days and their bad days. And for the most part, I just see Godsend with bad days. So I think that Dusty's on the upswing here, and Godsend to me is still a lacking team that might hit a good day, might hit a bad day, but that's kind of the the uncertainty I have about them.
I see also Orcs and Jamada both going for Singularity in that Fnatic match. I actually, normally if I see someone voting against Fnatic, I'm like, oh man, you're just throwing a curveball for curveball stakes. But like, to be real, these teams are very close. I do think, especially after the Fnatic we saw yesterday versus Kova, Singularity could genuinely take that.
I thought SNG, I thought about it as well. I was like, man, am I actually going with SNG today? Because that's the thing, normally you'd never think about it. Last split, Fnatic was just undefeated and there's no doubt about it. But today I was like, man, am I going for Singularity? And then I was like, no, I think they can rise to the level of the opponent, and that's what we're seeing most of the time.
Yeah, and I totally agree. And I think despite the loss yesterday, that lineup, the support stuff around them, they're not the kind of team to sort of be dissuaded by one kind of loss in the manner that they had yesterday. And I think coming into Fnatic, it might even motivate them more to try and actually take these guys down. And Fnatic, it's no secret, they've not really looked as strong as they have done in the past, relative to the competition. They've been overreaching a lot, they've been overstepping their bounds, they've been punished. They haven't always lost the game because they've been punished consistently. But I think if there is a team in the league that can do it, it is SNG.
Yeah, it's weird that we're in this world now where at the beginning of the season, I thought we were probably going to have one of the most top-heavy tournaments we had, where Fnatic and XL were kind of just going to smurf their individual groups. And honestly, from both of these teams, we've seen weaknesses. I think the main strength that Fnatic and XL have had is they're just so good at team fighting. They're just so good at team fighting. Even when they're failing on these macro games, and it's like they're giving up a lot of stuff. Like we look at the Fnatic game versus Kova. They gave up Ocean Soul. It was Ocean Soul. I think it was Ocean Soul. Yeah, they gave up a soul, and I think they even lost like a bunch of Rift Heralds as well. Like it was genuinely like, is this really the Fnatic? And then they just turned it around with team fighting. That's the thing about these two teams is no matter how behind they seem to get on the map, they just seem to be able to out 5-on-5 anyone else.
Yeah, but you're also playing against a less experienced roster with the likes of Kova. Pay in mind, this roster came from Telia Masters and had to play against players who's literally been on the world stage. And I think that if you're Fnatic and you keep making these slip-ups, it's only a matter of time before you're punished.
Well, we do have our first Academy team of the day playing up versus Granit. It's XL versus Granit. It's our first game of the day, so strap in and get ready. We're back after this break for our first match of the day.
indication of the kinds of wealth we found. This animation, luck was a conversation, she's on a shelf. People say we are just what we do. It's just a stage. So we go on, and the lights are so strong.
Hello, everybody. We're back and getting ready to go into our first game of the day. This is going to be Granit versus XL. Guys, talk to me about this game. I mean, honestly, XL, they have looked good. Got an 83% win rate, and they're first in their group. But I do think there has been some weaknesses.
I mean, we saw it against Nordavind as well, and interestingly enough, it was like Aroma who was down as well, who's like, realistically speaking, has been topping the charts in the top side here. So I don't know if against Nordavind it was just realistically Nordavind being really good, because from BTXL, I think we've always said that right now between the two academy teams, they are the one who's looked the best, at least in my humble opinion. And I think that they are making very few mistakes, but when they are, they're being punished in the early game, like as we saw against Nordavind, like when they kind of lose their grasp of the mid game, if they can't transition their early game leads, that's kind of where it falters for them. And but we've only seen one scenario where it didn't go well for them, so it's hard for me to be like, yeah, let's just replicate that every time.
Yeah. Well, looks like we're getting into Champ Select. We'll see where the bans are going to go. We did touch lightly onto Heroes champion pool. XL so far banning away the Rise and the Olaf, the Nidalee and the Pantheon denied from the side of Granit.
Yeah, so
next.
They've BTXL, one part of the draft versus Granit Exodia, the Rise ban. I'm not sure if they're gonna ban Victor 2 on the red side, but that being said, Granit have banned Pantheon, and there's a bunch of like other picks that don't really need to be banned when you're red side. And I'm sure they won't mind playing into Talia, so they could actually just remove Victor and see what Sahira is actually willing to play. It wouldn't really be out of XL's reach here.
And here's the thing, if you go with the Victor ban, it just leaves Seraphine open. We know that Deadly has favored Seraphine in the past, but the question is, do you favor it if you're Granit? And if you do not, well, then you have to realize that you most likely will be playing against it, and then we're opting into these extended teamfight compositions where you get so much value out of it. But it is the Seraphine pick that they are opting into here, and triple flex, mid, AD carry, support, we don't know yet.
Does leave things like the Kaiser open as well. Maybe if Deadly wants to go for that. I mean, to be honest, most of the AD carry pool is open, so there is a bit of flexibility there for XL.
I think into Seraphine, Kaiser could be a little bit tricky in the earlier stages of laning, so we could see something like Senna return for Deadly. Rel, I think, is honestly a champion that teams have finally sort of like cracked the code on. People recognize how broken this champion actually can be in a lot of scenarios. And all you really need is follow-up for her, because she's got so much CC and immediate engage.
And I love the composition you can make with different champions. Like, you can go all in with Samira, where you have the E onto Samira, she dashes in, you connect the stun, you jump forward. Like, it's these small compositions you can draft it. Even the Kaiser, when the Kaiser ults in the back line, then you just get an instant stun line. But speaking of stun, I mean, run, stun, jump done. Makun with the Udi is back here.
Kind of forgot about that one. It kind of slid through, kind of under the radar. I like the fact they haven't gone for AD carry. Does mean they can kind of get a little bit of a better read on what is going to get locked in by Granit here. Looking at the junglers available, they're obviously hovering the Hecarim at the moment. Pretty much expected. I mean, actually talk to me about this, because you didn't agree with me on that one.
So I'm really not a big fan of Hecarim into Udyr specifically. Most of the time, Udyr will just have a faster clear. When he gets down to it, you'll end up by having more impact. And Hecarim is this sort of champion when he's really good into champions with low mobility, where they won't be able to run away from you. But right now, that's only Rel, realistically speaking, if she dismounts, and there's still all of BTXL's compositions left to be decided, and loads of mobility open for them there. So Aroma now could be with the Camille coming in here, and they are opting into it. So that instantly, you think about Galio. You're like, okay, we need to shut down the map here. You can't let Galio come through. Like, even Twisted Fate, it's already banned. Never mind. So it's realistically speaking only Galio.
Yeah, I think now if you're XL, remove the Renekton, you move away one other lane bully champion. And if you're Granit, I think you have to consider this Galio ban, like you say. Okay. All right, I'm hoping they don't go with the double AD ban, because giving over Galio into a Camille, plus the fact that you're most likely running dive with this Hecarim could be really devastating to actually try and gain leads versus this team.
Kind of a lot of power picks actually got slipped through onto the side of XL. Obviously, Orianna very strong at the moment, but it's just a comfortable blind pick as well. The Gnar ban away there, so just banning away things that can deal with this Camille on the top side. And now it's over to Granit to make their final ban. Is it going to be the Galio, or are we going to see the double AD carry? That's the question we're really asking here. There's still so many AD carries left open as well.
And that's the thing. It's just as we talked about pre-game, when you're playing against Granit Gaming, you kind of have to go for the Victor and Rice ban, and you never do that against any other teams. But when you do this, there's just so many power picks that's open. It's essentially an overloaded draft. And Jamada really
look. So Xayah, if it was Xayah Galio bans, I would be totally okay with it, right? Because they're running dive. Xayah is one of the best AD carries into dive. So I understand that the Xayah ban is cool. I guess with the Samira, they're worried about the Rel combination in lane. But giving over the Galio, it's just so much pressure that you're going to have to deal with now, right? Galio is going to have mid lane priority into Orianna in most scenarios. She's going to be able to always move first. And come the mid game stages where, you're going to have skirmishes around dragons and chokes and whatnot, Hecarim's going to have really struggled to dive onto backline members if you've got the heroic entrance actually available. So I think it's a bit of a blunder, honestly, to give over Galio in this kind of scenario. Granit, though, responding with another global in themselves with the Shen, which I'm actually kind of a fan of here.
Yeah, and it's not bad paired up with the Hecarim either. It's like the submarine kind of style we know from stealth champions, but you just do it with the unstoppable way here. And the triangle of Hecarim is kind of, or the Triforce rather, is actually coming through here. No, it's not. Never mind. I got baited. But it usually was the thing where you go into the mist and Hecarim just becomes this. You can run at them really fast, basically. But it is obviously going to be the Kai'Sa coming through. Shen is most likely going towards that top side where we will have Seraphine in the bot lane there. So double range bot lane, great for getting that priority, and you're against a melee like Rel, so you're not fully complaining laning phase wise.
Yeah, no, and hovers coming through from XL are pretty exciting, but we're gonna land on the Tristana actually, which obviously for a really long time was considered a lane counter into Kai'Sa, and honestly it still is. So that's gonna be a pretty bloody bot lane for this XL side to play into if they want to fall away from that Camille on the top side. And honestly, I think if Granit dipped into that center pick, they would have been a little low on damage. I think this Kai'Sa sort of supplements them a little in that sense. Though I think the utility in the lane would have been definitely pretty oppressive for this XL bot lane.
I actually quite like the Tristana, especially when you've got like an XL comp that just goes forward. Tristana can kind of reset and just continue to like keep up with her team. Because if you do pick something like the Misfortune, she'll stand still to ult and just kind of shoot into the air and then be isolated. Tristana's just going to get down and dirty into that kind of cartoon fight team comp where it's just arms and limbs flying out of a smoke cloud. That's kind of what XL are going to be looking to do here. Guys, I'm going to get some final thoughts on these comps. So, Gulborg, I know you want to talk about this. I can see you itching. Talk to me.
Okay, so I was just going to say, it's not fully about the dive-in as well. You actually got the disengage. So, obviously, Tristana ultimate great for disengage and against a comp that want to dive in on the backline. The same can be said for Rel. Doesn't necessarily need to use that Magnetic Storm for an engage. You can use it if they come storming at you. And that's what I'm looking for BTXL.
Yeah, I think XL's composition a little more flexible than what Granit are working with. So we'll have to see how Granit actually respond, because I feel like they can only realistically move forward with that Hecarim and the Kai'Sa. So geared one way, whereas XL are geared into two sort of motions.
Yeah, you got forward and reverse there for XL. That's all they need really to be able to navigate these fights. As you can see, it's me hosting today. That does mean our normal lovely dad, who with his crying baby, isn't actually on the desk, but he will be in game with you. We're going to pass it over to our casters, Excoundrel and Orcs.
Thank you so much, Hiprain, and may I say you've done an absolutely beautiful job hosting so far. I've been really impressed. As you can see, we have myself and Orcs, and the top half of our heads cut off for this section of the broadcast. We're a little bit too high for our cameras, but I'm actually really excited to be casting.
It's actually because Jake is a midget and we're just like 2 feet taller than him.
Yeah, of course. Sorry, Jake. I didn't realize you were that short. Obviously, we've got a great game to get things started with. XL versus Granit, and Dan, I honestly want to begin at the very baseline level of this game, XL have shown weaknesses recently. XL have lost games. They, most notably lost a game to Godsend, and Granit have come into the league as a relatively strong contender. Where do you think Granit need to perform in this game in order to tilt XL and potentially take the win here?
I think mid jungle is a big one I'm looking towards. I think we saw a game yesterday where mid jungle was definitely a point that caused issues for Fnatic, and I think it's a similar thing. If you can get control of that area, you can expand the control outwards. It's going to be difficult because I'm looking at BTXL, I'm looking at Galio, I'm looking at Udyr. Udyr, great at taking over the jungle, and Galio is able to find priority and assist. But we've seen Sahira be a massive factor for Granit, and realistically, we need him to be able to find pressure in mid lane if Galban wants to even survive the early game. I feel like that's the thing here is Granit have a lot of strong scaling tools, but it's their early pressure I'm a bit concerned about.
Yeah, the thing that immediately sort of jumps out to me when I see the Granit composition is actually they have a limited strength in the early game. Whereas that Udyr is going to take over, that he's going to be strong. You've got a Rome who I think statistically is one of the best performing top laners in our competition. Looks like we have Dr. Chaos on the top side of the map here. I don't imagine he's staying there, but he is hovering over near where the Camille is for the time being. Is that a Seraphine top and a Shen support? Like, what's going on here?
Not quite sure, honestly, but it's a support mime on the Seraphine, so I fully expect the Seraphine to recover. I think this is just simply an evade strategy. I think assisting with a level 1 plan, which honestly is actually really great to see, because I think inventive level 1s are a great way to get an advantage, especially against a stronger team. And by bringing 4 members, it guarantees they're going to get that red buff. And when you're playing against an Udyr, you have to be concerned about him making his aggressive invade. So by getting one off early for the Hecarim, it's not necessarily going to stop the Udyr from maybe invading your red buff, but by securing one already, it's going to be an even trade. And Dr. Chaos is going to actually cause issues mid lane as well. Just by walking through, Hatrix has to run away. So it seems minor, but it's already a really solid start for the side of Granit.
Yeah, I don't envision that experience loss would make a huge difference into Dr. Chaos. A really nice early start then for Granit. And it looks like he's even going to continue to take the Krugs on the top side of the map, continuing to pressure out the Udyr, maybe force him into a precarious scenario around that red side invade, because I assume we're just going to have a vertical jungle split here. And I imagine that favors the Hecarim, because it means there won't be any kind of crazy early Udyr shenanigans. But that is what we're going to see, is the vertical jungle split's going to come through, and we'll see an aggressive push in from XL to respond and go for the red, so essentially trading buff for buff. But that does limit Hecarim to the top side of the map here. Is that, I mean, if you're XL, does this put a spanner in the works for you? Where would you want to be focusing as Udyr in the early game?
So I think the thing with Udyr is that you can invade the Hecarim. You go aggressive, you'll be able to out-duel him. He only has Ghost, not Flash, so if you find him in a precarious position, he's not able to get away. And by splitting the map like this, it means that isn't really possible. Both teams are invading, both teams are splitting the map. So it's not like Udyr is getting any advantage as a result. The only real downside to this is there's a potential scenario where they can look for a dive in the bot lane. But the thing is, it's quite early. As long as Granit can negate that pressure for the first clear, we'll see Galban reset and he should be able to assist his bot lane after that. So it's only really this window now where I'm concerned about dives. Once it's passed, once the resets come, Granit should just be able to stabilize. But to be honest, Marcoon was likely to be looking towards the bot side anyway, but it's like Granit going top.
Yeah, flash taunt onto Arome. Actually, oh my word. But Tamos, you were so low, buddy. The hook shot comes through. I don't know whether Galban could even pick this kill up. That felt like an overforce to me. Tamos just wasn't in a great spot.
Yeah, I think too much fighting, too much forcing, and then you use your CC just a little bit early. The thing you got to think about there is the lane was absolutely massive. Oh no, things going really badly now for Granit.
This is not exactly. This is what you wanted to avoid. Like the getting double scuttled by an Udyr is what you wanted to avoid in the early game. Marcoon backs off here. Already we see Arome back into the lane, ready to put pressure onto Tamos, who's already low. Is he going to die again? That's so close. Arome potentially forcing him out. Takes a bit of a damage from the tower in the meantime. But, I mean, all of that work, all of that vertical jungling pressure, you want to avoid getting double scuttled in the early game by an Udyr. Oh, wow, the taunt comes through. Maybe they're going to get the kill here. Nice knock up onto the tower. Martin picks up the kill, and he dies anyway. They traded kill for kill at the end of the day.
Honestly, there's actually a win for Sahira. Sahira has TP, can get back into the lane. You can see Marcoon's trying to push it in, but Sahira's just going to teleport and catch that wave. So actually not opting for it, just letting Galban take it. either way, that was quite a bit of an overforce from BTXL. Both mid and jungle using their flashes there to secure that kill, and it's just been a 1-for-1. And you can just see it's going to be an overreach. Like, Hatrix is like, I'm definitely going to get this kill no matter what, but you just go so deep there. And obviously Tower doing a ton of damage at this point. But going back to to what happened with the Hecarim, he sacrificed taking the Scuttle Crab on the top side to go for that gank. He could have just done the Scuttle and continued on his way, but instead he went for that gank. And that's what led to Markoon being able to challenge him on that. So we could have seen free farm for Galban, very clear transition from the first jungle clear, and he would have been in a comfortable spot. But instead, going for that gank had huge risks, and it ended up backfiring. And now Arome is looking pretty comfortable, and Markoon is pulling ahead in terms of farm, even though it's just marginally. That extra kill he picked up there, definitely going to be an asset.
So, bit of an action-packed early game here between these two teams. Arome definitely having a bit of gold put into his back pocket, which I think favors Excel in this matchup. You know, you've got the scaling capabilities of Arome in a side lane, and he's obviously outclassing Tamos right now, especially off the back of that gank. But bot lane has been relatively quiet thus far. Deadly and Advian had very little to do so far. They've just been pushing in the lane, got a very minor CS advantage that will really bounce back once that wave bounces in. But I say that, they go for the dive straight onto Dr. Chaos. The explosive charge is stacking up, but I don't think the Ignite will take him down. Deadly and Advian, but they're threatening a dive, right? Or at least creating pressure for Udyr to go for this Drake uncontested.
Yeah, I mean, Udyr definitely going to be able to get the Drake there. A lot of pressure was given up in the early levels just by the fact that Dr. Chaos was late. But I gotta say, that was an incredible amount of patience coming out from Dr. Chaos there, just to not use the flash. I think I definitely would have in that situation. Yeah. But this slow-paced bot lane, this lack of aggression is... Oh, seeing an engage come in.
It's the Galio Camille combo, and Arome should be able to pick up the kill. I actually think they may even be able to pick up a second one here onto Tamos, who's taken very low. Doesn't have that flash available. One more basic attack comes through, but they're going to respond on the bot side of the map as a teleport comes through. Now Mishigu should pick up the kill onto Advian. Deadly gives him over as the sacrificial lamb. Sahira with absolutely no mana can't really do much to affect Deadly, but realistically, this is wins across the map for XL right now.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm in a situation where it's 2 kills for the Camille compared to 1 kill for the Kai'Sa, I am really worried about that Camille, especially when it's a Camille Galio who can very easily shut down your AD carry in the later stages. And it's just Galban again. He keeps being brought top lane to try and bail his top laner out, and it just keeps backfiring every time. Tamos needs to be able to play this lane defensively. He needs to be able to, and I understand like the plan there was just to shove the wave in. You have to respect the Galio roams. It's Camille Galio. You know there's potential for it to show up.
I really feel like they're wasting resources here. We have another engagement into the mid lane. That's going to be Markoon taken low through the shockwave. Rel in the middle of the fight right now, forced to dismount. Might be the sacrificial lamb once more. That's the second in a few minutes right now. And Hatrix and Markoon are going to be forced to back away as Deadly comes roaring from behind to try and provide that support. But alas, again, Advian, his life given up for pretty much nothing.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing kind of mirrored sort of situations. Granit are trying to make these plays to bail out top lane, and they're just a bit questionable. They end up backfiring and just making Arome more fed. And we're seeing BTXL trying to find pressure around mid lane, and it just keeps backfiring as well, giving more gold over to the side of Granit. We do see that replay, and it's just level 5 Hecarim, you're not going to be able to get out. Even if you're level 6, you wouldn't be able to do too much in this situation. Galio comes in, and you just got to respect that roam potential. Camille, really great at setting up the Galio to find those plays, and the fact that it's both kills for the Camille and both kills for the Camille there is just absolutely the most devastating thing.
Still, XL slightly in the lead right now. Obviously, we have the Rift Herald being started up by Markoon. This is what you expect from an Udyr jungle, just has complete dominance of these early objectives. This is kind of the time where Udyr shines. He just has to like kind of make use of this to snowball the game. And you don't really expect Granit to want to contest these pretty heavily in the early game, especially with their composition. Although you can see Dr. Chaos has made his way over, but not enough in time. Markoon will walk away with that with relative ease, and they'll have that first Rift Herald ready to go.
Yeah, just a quick pickup. Power Udyr, you're very good at just burning through those objectives. And this is kind of a bit of a difference between what teams have been doing, is you see that Granit swapped their bot lane up to the top side. And the thing with that is that you have to reset, you have to go back to base, you have to walk from base. It's very time consuming. And in that time, BTXL are just farming, and then they send Markoon straight to the objective to start it up. So Granit get back on the map, they start to set up vision, only to find out they've already lost the Herald. And now what we're going to see is Granite will reset again to head towards the bot side of the map for the Dragon. And it's just very slow rotations. And it allows windows like this where Advian can freeze his wave. And it just denies farm away from the side of Granite.
At what point do you think Granite start contesting? At least getting into a proactive position to start contesting dragons and neutral objectives? Because in the grand scheme of things, they're not massively behind at 10 minutes into the game. Like, it's not like XL have dominated from here on out. It has been, you know, a bit of swings and roundabouts when it comes to some of these engages. So at what point am I waiting for Granite to turn it on and say, okay, like, we actually want to start looking to contest these objectives?
I think they can actually, not too late. It just depends on the context of the contest, because there's a lot of aggression available to BTXL. They can really start engages aggressively. There's a lot of defensive tools from Granite. So if Granite find an overcommit from BTXL, they can definitely look to contest in that manner. The problem is, like, forcing in return just really doesn't amount to much. And fortunate Dr. Chaos doesn't really connect there. Looks like actually the plan from BTXL is just to hammer away at this tower and kind of abuse the weakness of Tamos. So not even really too concerned about the Dragon being up pretty soon. They're just looking for gold.
Yeah, I just have one of my worries for Granite is, you know, even if this gets to the later stages in the game, you're always going to suffer the side lane pressure of a Camille, right? She scales like really well as a split pusher, very difficult to deal with. And Tamos isn't exactly in a great place to actually placate that and deal with it. And that's one of my issues that I have. Even if we get to late game where, you know, in a teamfight scenario with a little bit of an engage coming through, the Camille Galio combo once more. Oh my God, Sahira, goodbye, baby. One final strike and he gets taken down, but it is realistically a 4 versus 2. The Shen ultimate comes through as well.
5 versus 2.
Yeah, 5 versus 2 as Shen actually joins, but they give up a tower. And honestly, if you're XL, like, you trade 1 for 1 and you get a tower, you're probably pretty happy with that.
Yeah, I mean, you were going to lose a Dragon anyway. You'd commit to the other side of the map. The only downside to it is it was a shutdown from the Camille's. That's a lot of gold into the Hecarim's pocket. But, I mean, Granite just essentially gave up on their top side to get the second tower. The thing is here is Romy actually doesn't take too much damage of the opener thanks to the ultimate. And then they just absolutely annihilate the Orianna. A lot of CC comes in thanks to the Seraphine. And it's pretty clear at that point BTXL aren't going to win a 2v5. But the fact that Hatrix gets away just means it's an even trade. And they can be pretty comfortable with that one.
But one of the things that I think is worth mentioning now is obviously with the loss of that Drake, that's an extra 5-minute timer added to the game. And that probably favors Granite overall. Even though I think there are elements of XL's composition that scales, there are, I think, strategies that they can execute on, especially with the Camille side lane, that will scale into the late game, maybe just as well as Granite's composition does. I think there is obviously issues when it comes to, you know, extending the game too long versus a Kai'Sa and an Orianna and a Hecarim. So maybe does that play in the back of XL's mind here? Like, losing that Dragon whilst it, you know, was worth it at the time. That 5 minutes does, I think, almost loom over their head a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think BTXL went for that top side lane because they weren't too concerned about it. Because honestly, as long as they get a big gold lead, BTXL are comfortable. Their composition doesn't have a hard fall off when it hits late. It does curve quite nicely. Things like the Tristana is still decent. The Camille's really strong in the later stages. And still really strong now.
Yeah, I mean, there's no point even talking about it. Sahira is as dead as quickly as I can get the words out of my mouth. Deadly now using an explosive charge on the turret. Marcoon and Advian are looking for a flank here, but Deadly completely by himself. Has to be a little careful. Mishigu will have the ultimate to jump in. Deadly taken low. Flashes come through. How do you not land the basic attack? Deadly must have got the vision out of the brushes there as the engage comes through. That is Rel in her prime as she dives into the backline. Hatrix basically locks up the rest. Here comes Marcoon as well. That is going to be the Tamos ultimate coming through. Double taunt, there lands, and now XL are going to be forced to back off the teleport of Sahira. I think a little too late. Advian again given over as that sacrificial lamb. XL will walk away, but it is, again, a trade that is essentially a 1-for-1 overall.
Yeah, I mean, you can be pretty happy with that for Granite, but the problem is, this is the situation you're in. Camille is able to push away in the mid lane and take a tower, so it's still BTXL coming out ahead. And now with a 5k gold lead, they're looking for more.
Hatrix, he's just got absolutely no chill, baby. He's straight onto Sahira. Sahira has been the punching bag for XL this game. Explosive charge will do its work onto Galban. And they'll pick up another kill. Honestly, just throwing the kitchen sink at Granite right now.
Yeah, I mean, this is the problem. Granite are thinking they're getting an even trade, and then it's just BTXL finding more. They get the mid tower, they get an exit kill. And now 5,500 lead. They're going to find another here, maybe. No,
Yeah,
looks
Tamo's,
Tamos, you're alone.
Yeah, that's an interesting taunt, I think. That's an interesting taunt. Actually kind of glad it didn't land.
Yeah, so look at the replay here, and I mean, the problem here with Mishku is he's just slightly out of range. The ult comes out, and then he's not in range to auto, but they both flash, and he didn't have the vision there. And because Deadly was out of auto range before the flash, and then they both flashed, he's still out of range, can't finish it off. And I mean, Mishigu and Dr. Chaos just committed so much here. They're in a really rough spot, and Granit come in to try and save the day. And I think at this point, BTXL kind of like, okay, now we've used a bit too many resources, lacking ultimates. And it's actually Sahara with the teleport speed buff who's just able to pick Fabian. Again, the sacrificial lamb for the team. But BTXL finding even more off the back of the play, and once more looking towards the Herald to cement an even bigger lead.
I mean, they've got a 6,000 gold lead at 15 minutes into the game. Really off the back of a 3,400 gold deficit between Tamos and Arome right now as well. Arome has been absolutely crushing that top side of the map. The guy, I mean, I didn't even realize the guy's 5-1 right now on this Camille. Has really shown why he is one of the best top laners in our competition. And XL, it really feels like they've come out swinging in this game. They kind of had something to prove after the Godsent loss. I do think there have been questions raised about whether they are as good as Fnatic, whether they are the strongest team in our league. And
it was
Nordavind
loss.
Yeah, sorry, Nordavind loss. That's what I meant to say. Thank you, Ox.
Yeah.
Off the back of the Nordavind loss. So I really think they had questions that needed to be answered. They were looking to prove themselves, maybe to themselves and maybe to the league as a whole. And this is a game I really think they did need to have this kind of performance. Like, even though it hasn't been as clean as you'd like, they still have a significant gold lead. Their macro and cross-map trades have been excellent. And I think that's what you need as XL, because again, Fnatic are breathing down your necks. You know, you obviously have that rivalry that you want to cement. This is, I think, the first time, Orcs, that I've maybe genuinely looked at the XL roster and said, yes, very competitive versus Fnatic. And I think this is the season where we might see that gap closed between the two teams.
I mean, I think it's really hard to call, especially with Fnatic changing so much. I think it's really hard to see which of the academies is currently stronger. And even if it's going to be an academy team who wins the league at the end of everything.
It's true.
BTXL looking
Deadly,
for here.
They are a little bit overextension, though. I don't think Arome will go for the ultimate. They will just back off. And again, it's just
this pressure coming out. I mean, the fact that Granit are trying to walk a tiny bit outside of the base and they're getting jumped on. Just complete control from BTXL. And Granit, yes, there will come a point in this game where their composition does feel better to play than XL's, but we are talking a long time from now. And it's realistically going to be about 10 minutes until the Solar's available, but I don't even think that's a major concern. Baron's up in 2, and if BTXL do find some picks around that, they'll easily be able to pick it up. So Granit need to find a way to stall the game out, need to find an overextension, a pick, potentially something like here with Deadly, but the vision will ward him off and he'll just move away.
I'm really loving the way that XL are just essentially starving Galban of experience and resources from the jungle as well. You can see with all of these towers down, the vision control from Granit is lackluster, next to none in their own jungle. Every single camp is being cleaned out by members of XL too. So, you know, when Galban finally gets that chance to walk into his jungle, he's got nothing left. Nothing to gain in terms of golden experience, and that's really putting this Hecarim behind.
Yeah, I mean, it's allowed Marcoon just to start to pull ahead, and obviously cheap items, the Cam Tank 2,800 is a very nice, easy pickup to take. And that's the thing with Izudi is you're very low econ because you build tank items and you get a lot of value out of that. But you're so fast at farming, and when you're given an opportunity like this, you can just end up so much more useful than the Hecarim.
Oh.
Whenever I see Deadly walk up, I keep thinking he's going to jump in. I keep just seeing it. Seeing the windows, but he's playing pretty respectfully, honestly. I think that's the thing for XL is they have been aggressive. They are 7,000 gold ahead, but they haven't overstepped too far. There's been moments, but for the most part, they've just been happy to take these objectives.
Looks like Granit are keen to look for a sort of a combination fight here. Okay, Dr. Chaos. Yeah, and they just lost an inhibitor turret for that little foray into the bot lane. Maybe looking for a wombo combo team fight with the Shen, the Orianna, the Hecarim, but it's just, I mean, look at the damage that Tamas has already taken. XL are in complete control. They are in complete control. I mean, there's a flash taunt. This is a desperation flash taunt, though, surely. Mishigu goes in. There's comes the Galio ultimate to buy some time. Nice knock up. Arome flashes out of the shotgun, but how is he still alive? Well, he's not, because he finally goes down. but the rest of Granit are losing their lives whilst it happens. Good stopwatch coming through. Advian buys some time, pulling everybody in. Sahira now on the front line, and XL may be forced back here. It's going to be a teleport. I think Galban's just dead.
Down.
Yeah, he's just dead.
They want the jungler specifically here so they can look towards the Baron. Camille will have TP available and can just join in with their attempt on this. So they're going to start it up. I mean, with Mishigu only just spawning Sahira out of mana, I don't think there's any way that the contest going to come through from Granit. So this is just Baron for BTXL. And as I said, it was still a while away from the Dragon Soul. The BTXL didn't need it. They just needed a pick. They needed a slight advantage, and they can easily turn onto this and take it.
And this should be one of those nails in the coffin right now for Granit. XL should be able to, especially with the strength of Arome, really effectively use this Baron to its fullest capabilities. They have essentially an open mid lane inhibitor that they can walk towards. They have, two-tier inhibitor turrets remaining in the top and bot side of the map, which could be split 1-4 really easily right now. I think XL are moments away from closing this game out. 10,000 gold in the lead. No major objectives to contest right now to speak of, although there is a Drake coming up in 1 minute. But for XL, the Soul is probably not even on their radar. They'll probably be looking to end the game before that Soul even becomes relevant in this game right now.
Just seeing the end of that clip where the TP comes in. And I mean, it's just such a rough spot. Because you can see Granit are trying to make these plays, trying to be proactive, trying to find a way back in the game. And XL are ready every time. And I think hat-tricks on this Galio has been a massive factor for the team, just being able to be everywhere. And when plays seem like they might be going a little bit amiss, able to jump in, save the isolated member, often ended up being a roommate and turn things around. And kind of potentially fishing. But I mean, the target you want is not the Udyr.
You're fishing for sharks right now. Not exactly like you're fishing for a casual carp. I'm not sure if I land the hook. I wanna pull the line up at this point, to be honest with you.
You see this sort of 3-2 come out from BTXL or 1-1-3 with Arome and hat-tricks pushing up in the mid and top, and it's just applying this consistent pressure. BTXL don't need to look for a fight here, and Granit, they're good at peeling backwards, but going forwards, it's definitely been a bit of a struggle.
They're trying to catch out one of those two split pushers right now. You saw Galban just desperately charging forward to defend that inhibitor turret, but it just feels like they are slowly bleeding out with no way to just essentially push the go button right now. They lose that inhibitor in the mid lane. Now hat-tricks can join Arome. Tamos can't get anywhere close. This is two inhibitors that are surely going to drop for free. And Granit just are rolling over with a whimper. They are finding it impossible to get that opening and execute on what is supposed to be a team fight composition. They are just being torn apart across the map in every lane, and XL are saying, we don't want a team fight, we don't need a team fight, and you're not going to get that opportunity either.
Yeah, and I mean, the only way they can start something is just Galban just charge in, but he would just get decimated so quickly. I mean, you can see toying with the fact that XL actually taking the window.
Yeah, I mean, they go for it, but it's a little too late if you ask me. Deadly on the backside of the map. He doesn't even need to be in the fight for XL to dominate. Marcoon bear slapping everyone to death. Uses the stopwatch right at the end to buy the time as that final inhibitor turret drops down. Tamos now on the plate, and he gets chopped up as XL pushed towards those Nexus towers. This should be an easy finish of the game right now. 23 minutes in. It is a while since I've seen XL be this dominant in a game. They're going to drop those Nexus towers and take the Nexus for a win versus Granit Gaming.
I think this was XL showing that the loss against Nordavind isn't something they want to be repeated. Just decimating Granit, and I think Granit made some mistakes, absolutely, but compositionally, I think they were going to struggle to hit their scaling points, but the difference between the teams was just stark. I mean, it felt like XL were in complete control. Other than a couple of deaths here and there where they were still trading upwards, it felt very clean.
I really felt like XL came into this game with something to prove. Like, losing to Nordavind was a massive upset, realistically, given the strength of the roster and how XL had been playing. So into this game, they didn't want to give Granit any space. And yes, there was a couple of messy team fights in the early game, but they cross-mapped every time. They make sure they got something from it, and their macro was super clean. Marcoon looked great on the Udyr as well. Of course, it's not just us that you want to hear from about this game. We have a beautiful analyst desk who are going to take it away after a short break.
Waking up, the sun is rising. We can go anywhere, do anything. Put your hand in my hand, let's explore. Travel places no one's been before. Leave your fears and hear you calling. Wherever you go, wherever you are, your beauty's unique. The melody's so sweet. Our differences make our union so great. Together we weave perfect harmony. Perfect harmony. Together we will be perfect harmony. Let's get lost in a forest of green. Lose ourselves in the blue of the sea. Paint the world any color we choose, or a rainbow with all of the hues. Make the world the way that we dream. Wherever you go, wherever you are, your beauty's unique. The melody's so sweet. Our differences make our union so great. Together we weave perfect harmony. Perfect harmony. Together we will be perfect harmony. Together we'll be. Together we'll be perfect harmony.
I know that it's time to make a start. We can't stay where we are, my love. This is our one chance to chase the sun. We've gotta cut and run, my love. For all the reasons we work so hard, for the life that we deserve. I know that we'll be on golden sands, seeing far across the world.
Well, that was a pretty dominating win there from XL, honestly. Kind of stomped Granit. I think that's the only way to really word that.
Yeah,
I'm going to be
yeah.
completely honest with you guys.
Well,
Yeah.
I will say one thing. Galio probably should have been banned. I'm not going to say anything else. That's.
I mean, even with Galio not being banned, I think they were going to have issues as well. Like the way that the lanes were played out in the early game, the way that Orome somehow was able to win that matchup is like, should never happen in the early game. Like, realistically speaking, you will outscale on side, but you'll have a harder time in the laning phase. And then the rest of the map from BTXL, you know, lots of pressure. Makun had a field day, even though he was being counter jungle in the beginning, found his way back into the game and, you know, run, stun, done, job done. You all know the deal with Udyr at this point.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It was a very solid draft from XL, but we do actually have one of the bot laners here, Advian, the support from XL, standing by for an interview. How you doing, mate? You alright?
Yeah, I'm doing great. I just won, so. doing
Yeah,
great.
I'm feeling good after finally getting a win. You lost your last game you played.
Yeah,
I
those
actually
things
wanted to
happen.
kind of dive into that a little bit. The loss versus Nordavind. What was like your headspace this week, and what went wrong there, and what have you worked on since that loss?
I guess Nordavind, I think we just made some, I guess fluidity mistakes. We could have made a call, we didn't make it. I think other than that, the game was fine. I think Nordavind played well. We didn't really take it that bad. I think losing in a split is always just, it's part of the split, it's part of the game, and it's actually nice to get a reality check. People are challenging you, and so you can come into scrims fresh and then just play the game again. So I don't think it was a bad thing to lose at all, and we just took out of the game what we needed to take out of the game and went fresh into the next one.
Yeah, a bit of a wake-up call, give you the opportunity to kind of look back at it, because I think it's always easy to learn from your losses, right? Like when you can go back and watch the VODs and go, okay, that's what we need to work on, this is what we need to work on. When you're kind of stomping everything, you don't really get challenged until you almost step up to the next level, which, for your cases, I'm assuming is you guys are looking towards EU Masters and playing against teams over there. But I don't feel like it is just you guys like hard stomping everything. Like you guys, you've dropped one game and the rest of your games have been pretty clean. But it does feel like a bunch of the other teams are starting to challenge now as we're getting further into this tournament. And over on the other group, in Group B, it's Group B, over on their side, you've got, Fnatic, who are the other team who we kind of look at and expect to stomp their group. But actually, they've been getting challenged. They dropped their first game of the split. And I think it's kind of fair to say, while this game was very clean and very controlled from you guys, there has obviously been a shaky game. You've dropped games, and there's been some games that have been maybe closer than you would like them to have been. And it's the same said for Fnatic. So I think while both you two are on shaky footing, how do you feel like you two are actually going to match up right now?
Well, shaky footing, I wouldn't go that far because I think if you're starting as a team, like you're gonna have some games where you're maybe not perfectly in sync, or you might not, have the best game. I think this happens, and it's part of the game. So I wouldn't say we're on shaky footings. I think we're doing pretty well. I think our practice is going really well. We're practicing stuff we want to practice, and so. Up against Fnatic, I think they've looked all right, but I'd say personally that their group might not be a little easier, so they might not have gotten challenged enough. And I think if they ever face us, they're gonna have a rough time. So.
Everyone's group's always easier or harder, right? That's the way it is.
Sure,
They've got the easier group.
I mean, we're playing against Granit. It's way harder.
Let's talk a little bit about the bot lane in general, because I haven't had a chance to chat with you guys, and what we've seen recently is a bit of a rise in priority in the Rel pick. What's kind of given this rise to her as a champion? Is it, do you guys have supports and bots just kind of figured out that actually Rel's kind of strong, or like what was going on there? Because she started to really rise up in prio.
Yeah, I think Rel's a good champ. I don't think I'm the person to say it after my performance that game, but no, I think Rel's is a good champ. It has very strong engage or counter engage ways to play the fights. It's also really good if you let the enemy team come in and you can counter engage with kind of or be on the flank, as I did in another game. So I think it's just a very strong team fighter champ with a decent lane, and so you use it to just get decent amount of control in lane and then scale into the team fights.
Awesome.
So,
well, really great to hear from you, Avian. Congratulations on your win, coming off a rough loss in last week, but congratulations on this win, and hopefully we get to speak to you again soon. See you later.
I hope so too. See you later.
And here we actually are going to get Jamada. He is going to flex his GCSE art skills at you right now and start drawing on your screens. So break us down your favorite play from that game, mate.
I didn't actually take art at GCSE, but that's fine. That's okay. So obviously this game, it was a quick one. XL really accelerated the map quite quickly. So in this situation, we've got 4 members of BTXL on the bottom side, and we have Arome up here, 1v1 into Tamils on this Shen. We already know how far ahead Arome is, and realistically, he can just whack at this inhib as much as he likes. And the reason I actually like this setup more, instead of going for a 1-1-3, is Galio can be bought if Granit decide to engage forward, BTXL, they're at no real fear. They've got a lot of disengage from the Tristana pick, the amount of CC that can come out combined from Rel and Galio at the same time. It's not really going to be enough for Granit. Granit can't dive forward into the taunt, into all of the ultimates from BTXL. So they actually make the call to rotate up and attempt to take Arome down. So I'll get the clip finally playing, and we'll see Arome starts off the cliff half healthing Tamos. And at this point, Tamos says, okay, I've got to go forward. Galben's almost here, but the engage itself is a little bit it's a little bit botched. It's not necessarily too in sync. The rest of Granit haven't made it here yet. So we're going to just see Arome actually make it out of the base and then nicely use the ultimate to buy a little bit of extra time. And Hatrix on this Galio is already here with that heroic entrance to provide him with all the space. They actually take down Mikishu with the ultimate. And whilst he does go down, it buys enough time for the rest of XL to rotate up to this fight. And realistically, the gold lead is far too large for Granit to really deal with this many frontliners. And this teleport here from Hatrix is actually really good. And as Orcs highlighted in the cast, it's effectively just to make sure that Galben dies so the Baron is secure and they don't have to chance a 50-50 flip. And that's kind of it. Granit didn't really have much of a way in after Arome started getting rolling, because at that point you can just leave Arome top and you can focus on the bot side, and that's kind of what ended up happening.
Yeah, and I feel like honestly it was controlled as well once again from BTXL. Small hiccups, and I kind of like what Advian said in his interviews that, you know, we expect them to go and just win everything, not take a single loss because of the members of the team and how good they really are. But, you know, realistically speaking, that's really hard to do. And maybe, you know, it is really good just coming out and get that loss every once in a while. He wasn't even surprised it happened. It was just like, you know, losses happen and we take out what we need to take out from these losses. So I really like the mentality from that. And moving further into the tournament, I'm becoming a huge fan of this BTXL roster as well.
Yeah, I really am. I think they're performing very well. Also, it's very obvious that you didn't take Art, Jamada. That circle was crap. You didn't even join it. I was real. I'm just saying, I'm going to call you out. Work on your circles. Guys, while Jamada is going to go into the punishment chamber and try and draw more circles clean and better than that, we're going to throw to a quick break. And when we're back with our second game of the day. That's going to be Godsent versus Dusty. See you in a second.